What are your first impressions on this particular incident, and how do you feel that Michigan should handle it?
Well, first of all, Juwan Howard is going to be suspended from this situation that took place in Wisconsin. Now, to provide a little bit of a backstory, Michigan was losing this game to Wisconsin by double digits late in the second half. And under a minute to go, Wisconsin had two timeouts. And after one of their players hit a 3-point shot with about 40 seconds to go, Wisconsin called a timeout. They subbed out their starters. They put in some of their bench players. And you would think that they would just kind of play out the last 40 seconds of the game and the game would come to an end. Well, with about 10, 15 seconds left, Wisconsin calls another timeout because the coach for Wisconsin was saying that he didn't want to put his backups in a position where they actually had to play defense with like 10 seconds to go. Honestly, it was probably even less than that. So that's where basically this whole thing started. That's when Juwan Howard was getting frustrated. Now, once the game came to a close, both teams lined up for handshakes. And when Juwan Howard and the Wisconsin coach met, there was an altercation that took place. And essentially, I'm actually quoting Juwan here. Juwan told the Wisconsin coach, get the fuck away from me. And then it led to a scrum. And then it got to a point where people were shoving, people were pushing each other. And Juwan took a swipe at one of the assistants for Wisconsin. And then it kind of played out for another 60 seconds or so. And then everybody separated and then they went into the locker rooms. So when I look at this situation from a whole, when I look at Wisconsin first, I don't understand why their coach is calling two timeouts in a 45-second window when the game is clearly over. Wisconsin was not up like 4 or 5 points with 45 seconds to go. They were up 14 to 15 points. This is a double-digit lead over Michigan. And I understand what the coach was saying was like he didn't want to put his bench players in a position where they had to play defense. I'm like, what difference does it make? The game is over. Just go out and play the last 10, 15 seconds without calling another timeout. You'll be fine. You've already got the win. And then when that second timeout was called, I can understand Juwan's frustration about them kind of playing it out longer than it needed to be. Because at that point, Wisconsin already had the game won. And at that point, Juwan felt like they were delaying the inevitable for whatever reason at the time. Now, to flip it to the Michigan side of things, as far as Juwan Howard is concerned, Juwan overreacted. This is not a situation that should have escalated to the point that it did. This should have been a situation that should have been addressed in the locker room after the game. You do your handshakes, you go back into your locker room, and if you want to discuss it there, then you do that in a private setting. But, when Juwan is getting, I won't say physical, but is starting to escalate the situation verbally to the Wisconsin coach, that's when things started getting out of hand. And when it comes to the hand swipe that he had against the assistant, that's uncalled for. Juwan should know better than that. But it's not like I don't understand his frustration behind it. I do understand that. It's just that I believe that he overreacted. Now, as far as what the punishment should be, there are people saying that Juwan Howard should be fired from this. I think that is way over the top. If you want to fire him, you should probably fire him over the fact that he has a 14-11 record this season. It's not that impressive. But when it comes to this as the single incident that should get him fired, I think it's an overreach. Was it wrong? Yes. Does he deserve to be fired from this? No. When it comes to his job, as far as, whether or not Michigan's a competent team this year, that's another story. But when it comes to this individual incident, he was wrong. He deserves to be suspended from this. But fired is too far of a stretch for me. I know a lot of people are making these insane headlines saying that he needs to go immediately from this. He needs to be dismissed. I don't think that should happen. I think Juwan should be suspended. For how long, I don't really know. A couple games, maybe. Some people are saying that he should be suspended for the entire year. I think that's a little bit too much of a stretch for me. I think he deserves some games. But for the rest of the year, nah. I think that's too far for me. But overall, it was a fracas that spilled out onto the court. And honestly, it should have never happened in the first place. The Wisconsin coach had a part in it, but Juwan escalated it to a point where it didn't need to go. And now you have the situation where Juwan's job could potentially be on the line, but I don't think it should be. He should be suspended, but not fired. That's just how I see it.